Some last minute items. Kathy and I are going to kind of go over there just over this with you real quickly, but it's important to have an AT library that you have someplace literally that you can have a spot for equipment that's in the AT library and can be checked out. Kathy, you want to talk about that? And I'll go off camera for just a second.
Yeah, just real quick. One of the things that we found is that especially when you're talking about budgets and budgets were tight in many of the years that I was in Jane's, is that we had to figure out a system so that we could follow our stuff along and we knew where everything was. So having a good inventory system was really important, and having a central AT library that was actually in our instructional technology office was great, because we could kind of keep an eye on things. We knew where things were going. But the thing is, we had equipment that followed the student and not the program. So instead of saying we're going to buy, 20 single message devices for our programs with students with significant cognitive impairments, now we're saying that we might buy 20 of them, but then we're going to check them out as needed, because it was easier then to send them to a program than it was, or send them to a child versus to a program. So you're looking at more of the goal for the need. And we were able then to better distribute, I think, equipment. There was more equity in that too. And we seem to be able to use everything much easier. We did have an inventory system. We used the same inventory system, Destiny, that we used for textbooks as we did for our equipment. The only thing we did do differently is that the barcodes, we color coded them. And by giving them a yellow barcode, it really would tell people that, whoop, that piece of equipment belongs to the IT library, which worked really, really well. It just kind of helped that along. Yeah, Melanie just threw in the chat, we now have AT kits in all of our EC programs. Yeah, that's a great thing too, is to have a variety of things for you to choose from and try. And remember too, with the state, we now have the AT for All program where we can lend out both low, middle, and high tech items, and are not just OGCOM items. We have lots of different items that can be borrowed to your school district or your community. So we have that. And another big thing that we really did is you've got to always have a systematic approach. And Bob can talk a little bit more about this, about lost or damaged things, or kids who forget cords. A device is useless if it isn't charged, right? So that was a big issue. We often, especially for OGCOM devices, I had some extra cord, and people knew that they could call and get one, so that a student isn't spending the whole day dead in the water without their voice. So certainly very important, but also important for Chromebooks.
Just as a point there, philosophically, I have sort of hung my hat professionally on if a child loses a device or a cord, or I'm way more concerned about that child's self-esteem and self-concept than I am getting the cord back. So I always want to lean on the side of compassion. And maybe I don't know what kind of a difficult environment they're living in. I certainly believe I'm a man of privilege, and I don't live in an environment where it's difficult to go to sleep, or I'm cold at night, or those sorts of things. And so I would just really encourage you to have a philosophical point of view about how you want to handle that. And I will encourage you to be compassionate over rigid, if at all possible. Okay. Logins. I mentioned this earlier. If you can work with your IT staff to make sure that it's as easy as possible for all students, obviously, but certainly those that are identified, to have the easiest and still be secure, but to have the easiest possible login And again, also maintaining their independence so they can do it on their own. It's been something that we have focused on here to make sure that from the very youngest age and those students with the greatest needs still have the ability to log in. And we have found that to be through our ClassLink product with QR codes.
Question came in the chat just about a little bit more about the AT kits. Are you writing trials into the IEP? And Kathy, this is probably more for you. Are you writing trials into an IEP before you take the lid off the AT kits and let students, teachers explore?
What does that mean?
Yeah, whenever, we're looking at I think what they're looking at is when you're writing it into an IEP, assistive technology must be written into an IEP, and often the trials certainly can be written into that IEP, so that you're going to say you're going to trial like a Windows device for a refreshable braille or whatever it happens to be for so long, just to see whether or not it's going to work. And at that time, you're going to take data because, like with anything else, you have to progress monitor assistive technology. You're going to take data. And that's where it goes back to where Bob said, when I would come to him or our director of special ed and say, I really need this piece of equipment for the student, I had the data to back that up. So yeah, and that's where a library is really nice too. And that's why we have the state libraries being expanded so that you can borrow things, try them out, see if they're going to work, and then you have the documentation for purchase. Otherwise, you may not have that documentation. Hopefully that answers your question. And we got just a couple of minutes left, Bob. So if we want to go through these real quick, last minute items.
Sure. Absolutely. I think we've covered that. What's on the next slide? Oh, it's a question for the group, to a chance to spend another one of your poker chips. Have you found some funding strategies that you could share with the group?
Since we only have about 2 minutes, maybe we should, ESSER funds. Thank you for sharing that. We are to the end and we do want to be respectful of people's time. So if you have any other questions, I'll just go real quickly through these last couple slides as you think about your questions. We are giving you all the resources that we're using. And of course, we have the slide deck for you. And again, here's our AT lending sender so that you have the access to those kind of things. And our partners in assistive tech, because again, we can't do this alone. Here's our Wisconsin AT for All. Make sure you use Wisconsin AT for All if you're in our state. That's how you're going to get that. And then there's our survey link. Amy, let's see, you put in the chat, has an assessment grant. We've been able to use our funding library. Yeah, there you go. Always look for those grants. And, and don't forget about your community leaders, with the Kiwanis and things like that, or using TEP funding to get AAC devices. There's other ways of us doing that. Anyone have any other questions for Dr. Smiley? We sincerely appreciate his time and expertise here
Oh my
tonight.
gosh, this has been so much fun. I appreciate the chance to talk a little bit about something that's really close to my heart. And you're all doing great work. If there's anything I can do after this, I will follow up about the legal question of supplanting and get that back, but that'll be done tomorrow. So please don't look for that later tonight. It actually won't get done till tomorrow.